Good afternoon. This video is going to be mainly just based for just for my parents. In a little bit, I'm going to upload another video with a read aloud for the students. So please be looking for that because it's a story that I wanted to was really looking forward to getting to read to them before all of this happened, and then here we are. So when I was able to go to my classroom yesterday, I was so overwhelmed with things that I felt like needed to be done, and so I was able to remember to grab this book. I do wish I could have grabbed an Easter book and read some type of an Easter book also, but this is a book that has to do with one of our letters in the alphabet that was real important that I wanted to read it to the students. So if you would, please allow them to watch the video on the read aloud. This video is mainly just to let you in on some things I found out this week or make certain that you know these things that'll be coming up and what's expected of me as a teacher working at home, and what's really expected of you also as the family. So if you'll just give me just a moment of your time, I'm going to kind of run through these, and I won't keep you long. But I do want to let you know I was able to contact all of my families this week, and this group message that I just sent you is the new group message that will contain the future videos. I hope that there's no one left out of this. From what I can tell, I have all working contacts in this group message. So please know that this is kind of the main way of communication for me each week. I am required that I send something out each week to make sure that I'm staying in touch with you, and I would do that anyway. But I'm still unclear at this point whether I individually contact each student each week. It could, from what I kind of gathered, it's based on my discretion, mainly whether there's a need in the household for some type of, if there were food, in need of food or those type things. So as far as the homework or the distant learning lessons, the support there will come from me, but you kind of have to more initiate with your questions and concerns if you have any, or if you don't feel like posting anything to the group message, definitely just text me privately or call me. That's probably the best way to do it. Just call me, or if it's just if it's an answer you feel like what might be a short answer, I could get it back to you in a text message. So here was kind of what I want to talk about what I learned this week. I asked if there were any questions or concerns that any of my families may have at this point, and most said we won't know until next week. We're pretty much good right now, but we're just waiting to see what we get into next week with the lessons. Perfectly fine and understandable. Next week I have my phone with me all the time, call or text with any questions. But then I also had some that did have some common questions and concerns, and I kind of want to address those. So maybe you didn't at that time, or you just want to be informed on some points that I want to make, and that is is my child ready for first grade, or what is first grade going to look like now that we're 2.5 months with no school and no instruction? How is this going to affect first grade? And I'm going to try to put your mind to rest if you're worried about that. And that's simply because most all of our critical areas in reading, all really of our critical areas, have been taught in most all of our standards. The lessons that will be coming in the next 5 weeks the first 2 will be standards that the survey amongst all of the kindergarten teachers, we said this is the standard most all of us chose that we had not taught. And so the first 2 weeks will be those 2 standards, and there will be 1 standard broken into 2 lessons. And it's a quite simple lesson. It's really just age appropriate for kindergarten, and it's dealing with prefixes and suffixes, and it's actually that they don't have to know how to use prefixes and suffixes, but it is in their standard that if they're reading a story with a word that has a prefix or a suffix, they know what those suffixes and prefixes mean, so that they better gain an understanding of the word and what it means. They don't have to write a sentence spelling the prefix or the suffix or know how to use it properly in a sentence. It's just that if they're reading and they come to the word, they can recognize that there's a suffix or a prefix there and they know what that means. And that's all for the first lesson. It'll be in there. So know that, after that, it's pretty much just going to be a review. And the main critical areas of kindergarten are in phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, which is simply what I talked about in the video before, the rhyming, the beginning sound, listening for the 3 sounds or 4 sounds that you may hear in a word, knowing what comes at the end of a word. If I say b-at, then the student can say bat. If I say the word dog, they can say d-og. There's 3 sounds in that word, Miss Brooks. Those type things. And then the phonics, which is simply just letter names and their sounds, putting this word together, the sounds together to make a word. And then also, if they hear a sound, so if I say s, then they write the letter S. That's a very big part of it too, the dictation part, where they write the letter that matches the sound that they hear. And so those basic things are critical areas we've worked on all year long. Letter names and sounds. From my memory, if my memory serves me correctly, and it's so second nature to me, I think I have this right. Q, V, W, X, Y, and Z were the letters we officially had not come to for the weeks. And we would be doubling up on those anyway. And so while we haven't actually made our magazine poster, while we haven't actually properly learned how to write those letters, please know that your students should know that letter name and the sound. Now, they may mix up Y and W, the W and the Y. That is something a few of us were still trying to iron out. But overall, they have a good understanding of letter names and sounds. So that's where we need to be, is not going to first grade with just partial alphabet. We need to have the whole alphabet, and we need to be able to write the letter that makes the sound. So ways you can practice that is simply just index cards, letter names and sounds, Jack Hartman videos. There's going to be several. There's going to be a Jack Hartman video in the reading lessons, I think like the 3rd week, that just simply is splashing letters, letting them do sounds. And then we write a lot in sand, dry erase boards. If you have dry erase boards, we write with crayons over kind of textured paper. Just it's a multi-sensory approach where if students are struggling with a sound or a letter or learning a new letter, they're using all of their senses, as many as they can, to learn that. It just stimulates the brain more, and it's research-based that they are going to get a deeper understanding and hold on to that information better if all of their senses are being exercised. And so one way we do that is sand trays, dry erase boards, where they're writing not just pencil paper. That's just a portion of our time. It's a small portion compared to a lot of the other physical activities we do, as far as dancing, singing, writing in the air, writing in sand, just that a lot of manipulation with objects and things like that. So I just went to my pantry and I found one of these really small paper plates, and I actually just put some shaving cream in there earlier, and I had a little food coloring, and I just dabbed some food coloring in there and made like colored shaving cream and wrote numbers in it. And actually I was going to put this on for my first video, but then the iPad died and the shaving cream dried out and all that good stuff. So this works with rice, sand, sugar, sprinkles, anything that you can put in there that would be small, that you could make a letter, your child could make a letter or a number. It works the same with a number. The multisensory approach is an approach that can move across reading and math. Okay, so this is a great idea for numbers, or a cookie tray, or any kind of tray, or something that you can lay out at home. Even if you just have a piece of plastic where the mess, you're just trying to prevent a huge mess. But it's definitely something that the students enjoy. Also, just taking a piece of paper and rainbow writing. So they may write, say, the number 2 in blue, and then they may write over it in yellow and red and switch up. And they can do that with words, they can do that with letters, numbers. It's just repetition and sensory. And we always, when we do it, we use our fingertips. So you want to say the number, you want to say the word, you want to look at a printed version of it, and then you want to write it, okay? And practice writing it, and just, especially for that WY, if there are some students who are there that maybe look at W and say yeah, or look at the Y and say wah. The sounds are very close. They're both at the end of the alphabet. It's just a very typical mix-up. And then, of course, it also helps with writing letters and numbers backwards. That's another concern. And that is very age appropriate. It's very typical, and you will even see that possibly carry on into first grade, especially your 3, your B's and D's, your P's and Q's. Your 5s will sometimes look like S's. It's those numbers that favor letters, and it's the letters that also favor each other. So we talk about B has a belly, D has a diaper. So, and then you've got the P and the Q. Hopefully this book that I'm going to read to them in the read aloud will really get them solid on help them with the letter Q, because remember, Q always has that letter that goes with it, and that's U. So that's one thing that the students know what Q look like. They know what the letter Q, uppercase and lowercase, look like, but we've really got to, get them to realize that U also always goes with that letter. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about was math. There are far more reading standards than there are math standards, and that's why we spend a lot of our time during the day doing reading versus the time we spend with math. And math has 2 really critical areas that are only kind of kindergarten specific. So once they're taught in kindergarten, in first grade, those standards aren't listed again in the first grade standards. All other math standards, other than the 2 I'm about to tell you, are built upon. So addition and subtraction, while yes, they learn the concept of it in kindergarten, it's built upon and extended every year. Counting and cardinality is kind of just kindergarten's special standards, and it's the basic standards, and that's what we talked about last time. If you remember or watched the whole video, I know it was super lengthy, but if you watched the video, and I quickly held up the bag of beads and said, just having your child count a collection of objects is very important, and seeing their the way they organize how they count. Are they counting in an organized fashion? Are they putting any 5s together or any 10s together? Or are they taking an object and scooping it across the table, and one object with one number said? Those type things are really the basis for kindergarten. And writing our numbers, of course, recognizing our numbers 0 to 20, and orally counting 0 to 100. And recognizing our numbers 0 to 20, the teen numbers are really, really big for kindergarten. We often joke about it at conferences, because a lot of our presenters will say people just think kindergarten is just playing and, building blocks and knowing numbers. But those teen numbers for their age can be very difficult. It's just something that they kind of they have to see. They have to see, and they have to see, and they have to write, and they have to say it. It's the same type of rules that go for reading. We see it, we say it, we write it, and then we represent that number. So if you have the number 16, I can write the number 16. I can show you 16 Cheerios. I can draw 16 circles, and I can count 16 objects out of a pile of 20. If you say, okay, here's a bunch of, goldfish, and I need you to count 16 of those out, or I need you to draw 16 circles. So that's really a main thing. If that was really, really, really poor in it, that maybe the student was just not there, that would be a red flag. But for them to be working with those numbers and recognizing them and representing them, that is what we want. And then we have addition and subtraction, which will probably be a lot of what the distant learning is on, is addition and subtraction. So know that that will all be extended in first grade, but really those numbers, so this plate works the same way with numbers. Can you show me the number 15? There's a possibility they may show you the number 51. You may show them the number 17 and they may say 71. Those are simple things that, it's just their brain processing, and they may self-correct quickly, which is a lot of what you see as self-correction. Or they may know it Monday, and then when you practice it with them on Wednesday, they may look at 17 and act like they've never seen it before. That just, again, is just the fact that they just need to see that certain number more and more and more. So any kind of games that you can play. I had one who I mentioned to one of my families of just doing some like matching games where you may be looking for, let's say, the number 17, and you may just write numbers, 11 to 20 on cards, 2 sets, and you're turning them over and playing the matching game where you try to find 2 17s, and the next person needs to find, they flip over a 12, so they need to try to find the other 12. Sidewalk chalk. Drawing circles with numbers in them. Can you hop to the number 18? Can you hop to the number 7? Can you, just things like that are just really assuring you that they've got that foundation of, I can recognize those numbers. So I want to say, I'm here for any questions or concerns that you have about that. There can be a lot to be said, and I don't want to take up all your time with that. But please know that overall, confidently, the class, I feel like, is ready to go to first grade. I was already treating them a lot like first graders and I have high expectations, and I try to set those for all the students in my class, and they always rise to the occasion. It's a lot of work on the forefront, but when it comes this time of year, that's when we have the opportunity to say, okay, now we are first graders. We're doing a lot of first grade stuff, and we're writing like first graders, and we're reading our words like first graders, and we're speaking like first graders, loud and clear and in complete sentences and those type things. So know that, I have confidence in them, and I know the first grade teachers are going to hit review hard. They do every year anyway. These are just kindergartners. They've just really been in real school for a year. Even those who went to any type of a pre-K, they've still really had, school for a year, because kindergarten is much different from pre-K. So know that those first grade teachers are already prepared to review, and with this situation on top of it, they are going to really have a plan in place for review and allow that time of, okay, we need to go back and tighten some things up real quickly before we go on and get into first grade. And it's all going to be okay. And I'm going to be here for support. I know you're going to be there for your student. And first grade teachers, everybody's going to be working together next year. We're already working together now, planning things for next year. So please know that, while this is all new to all of us, unless I have come to you and said something, and you would have known before this come about, that there were extra concerns that I had. So that being said, let me tell you, Monday will start April the 13th. The lessons will be found on the county website at www.decabk12.org. I'll send that in the text message. It will go April 13th through May the 15th. Monday will be reading. Tuesday will be math. Wednesday will either be science or social studies, and then Thursday will be whichever one wasn't Wednesday, and then Friday will be a fun activity. And none of the work will have to be turned in. It will be video based. There will be something that your student will have to do after the video is over. It may involve a worksheet. It may involve my lessons that I had to plan for the reading portion. are really just foldables. You just have to help your child fold a piece of paper and maybe help them label it. And some of them, a lot of them are going to say, I can label that myself, or ask them if they can label it. And then you kind of just work through the page with them. It's short lessons. So, and then the math and science and social studies looks like it's going to be something that they'll be really interested in. It'll be addition. And when you teach addition, you simply do that a lot each day, and can do that really with about anything in your house. So I hope, y'all have a great Easter weekend, and enjoy the time with your family and this special holiday and what it means to us. And I hope that, all goes well with the sickness, and I hope that your family stays safe and stays healthy, and you're in my thoughts and prayers, and the community. So, but if you need me in any way, if you were okay this week when I called, but you might not be okay next week, please reach out to me, and I will try to get you the resources that you need. The next video will be for the students, so if you'll allow them, I've got a little read aloud I think they're going to really enjoy. Thank you so much for all of your support and all that you do, and know I'm here. Good night.